What about you? So I got this here a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't really had it out of the box much, to be quite honest with you. I just had a wee gander at it, and well, it's a pressure pulse jobby in this wee box, and there's 3 ranges on it, but it comes with no batteries, so I had to order some batteries for it. So on the old Fleabay or wherever it was, I can't remember, I ordered an 18650. Well, I got actually 2 of them for a tenner or something. So, well, we'll give it a go, see what happens. Well, I was on AliExpress and I bought this. It worked out roughly about £200 UK sterling.
Shut up and take my money.
And out of absolute curiosity, only really curiosity, I went ahead and bought it. I couldn't resist it. And it says there, please note this product does not come with batteries, but we'll talk about that in a wee minute. And there it is, APT-100. Now, a couple of other guys on the YouTube, I think, have shown this, but I've actually had this a couple of weeks now, and it's only really now I've really pulled it out of the box because I had to buy some batteries for it. But I'll show you that. So there's a wee schematic there. Looks very familiar, actually, that wee drawing. But what interested me was this here. The device has 3 gears, so 3 ranges really. That means minus 15 to 500 psi, which means 1 volt per 100 psi, minus 15 to 50, and minus 2.5 to 5 psi, 1 volt per 1 psi. So yeah, that all sounds familiar. And here's what's very familiar. There's that picture. Only, well, the right hand part of it is a wee bit different. And this is the Pico WPS. So if we look at this document and scroll down to page 10, I think it is. Let me see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Specifications of the WPS, the Pico one. Range 1, minus 15 to 500 psi. Range 2, minus 15 to 50. Range 3, minus 5 to plus 5 psi. That Chinese one, the only difference I can see is range 3 in it is minus 2.5 to 5. 1 volt to 1 psi on the Chinese one. 1 volt to 10 per 10 psi on range 2, just going backwards now. And then on the range 1 again, there is 1 volt to 100 psi. So the only slight difference is the WPS goes down to minus 5, whereas this one goes down to minus 2.5. Response time of the WPS, there it says, is 100 microseconds. Another document that I have here is this data file, and there's maybe a wee bit more there. So let's make that a bit bigger. So range 1, minus 15 to 500, 1 volt to 100. Range 2, minus 15 to 50, it's the same. Range 3, minus 2.5 to 5, 1 volt to 1 psi. Minimum pressure change response time is greater than 2 microseconds, or it just says 2 microseconds. So, whereas the WPS said 100, but Yeah, so out of pure curiosity, when I saw those specs, is this basically a clone of the WPS? So we'll give it a go on a car and see what happens. So we'll connect it to a car that we'll have in, where the plugs are easy to access, and we'll just give it a quick startup. I'm not going to bother disconnecting the fuel injectors or anything like that, but we'll just run it for a short period of time. And we'll use the 4425A for this. Well, let's get her hooked up, and I've got her hooked up to the Pico there, so a wee bit of time on the screen, and we'll just run that, and we'll hold that in for 4 seconds, see what happens on the screen. And we're in range 1, so that's the high setting, so we'll put a 0 on it, see what difference that makes, and we'll get a wee look at that. So we're still on the voltage scale from before, so we'll just run it, see what happens. Right, so I think that looks as if we're far too high on the voltage scale there, so just go back in that a bit. Yeah, so we'll just pull that down a bit. A wee bit. Yeah. So it's 500 millivolts more like. So we'll just change that to a volt then. Well, a couple of volts. And we'll put a wee bit less time on the screen, I think. Let's see. What have I got? Okay. Yeah. Not bad. That's what, no filter. I'll put a wee filter on it. There we are. I'll maybe put a wee bit less time on the screen, but we can still zoom in. Let's scale that a bit. I'm going to take a filter off a second. This means the line's a bit thicker. Alrighty, so that's just on voltage scale there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the settings here and change this to WPS 500, range 1. I'll take that off. and we'll run that. See what the crack is? You know? Knock down it. Tiny bass a wee bit. Let me see now. So that is using the WPS settings on the left, but how accurate is it? What have I got? 3 bar. The WPS there's in bar. I could go in and change that to PSI. I think I haven't really messed about with it, but yeah. Let me see. Yeah, there's where I turn it off. So it's a start up there. It's clipped there at the top. So we may need to raise that. So it's just where it was, just where I put it, but it doesn't really matter. That's what we're after there. There's a running compression on the WPS range. Let's see, 3 bar that's showing, and our all important 0 line, which is what we use to diagnose this stuff, is there. So yeah. So we've been mucking about today, just to see, but that's certainly a decent capture. Is it as good as a WPS? I don't know. So there's no, the main thing I'm looking for, you know, is it blocky, is it stepped, you know? And well, we're running a Pico 4425A, which is a 12-bit machine, you know, which is superb definition. But I've seen WPS captures, and you zoom it away and like that, you know, it's definitely as good, I think, anyway. So I'll put a wee bit of a filter on it there, and there's no, it's a clean line. As you can see, hopefully. Okay, well, I think that's it for this experiment. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That is pretty good. Definitely is, isn't it? Alright, what do you think yourself? Comment box is open. Tell us what you think. Just do a wee bit more with this, just to show you. So we'll maybe just zero that. So that's our 0 line. We'll get rid of that zoom box, and we'll take that filter off. Just put it back the way it was, and we'll put up a few rulers and things. So firing order 1342. We'll put this box here up, So we'll try and zero that at that compression tower. So it's normally the peak of the tower there is normally regarded as TDC. Regarded as. So let me see. So power, exhaust, intake, and compression. So the power there is normally referred to as expansion, because when you have the spark plug out, you know there is no power. So that's just what people call it, you know. So we'll put a few degree markers up. So maybe gives you a bit of an idea there what's going on. If we can hover that down a wee bit. So the first sector there is expansion, or the power stroke. As I say, there's not really any power because there's nothing firing. That's the exhaust, that's the intake, and then we're back on the compression again. So we might do something else with this thing. This wee tool, see if it's any good. So I'll try something else here. We're on range, the red dot there, the range there. So if I look here, range with the red dot, it's up to 500 psi. So the lowest there is minus 2.5 psi to 5 psi. That's 1 volt per psi, and that's supposed to be super responsive as well. So we'll click it onto the blue and do a 0. So there we go. I think that's her ready to go. And for this test, we've got her in the tailpipe. Right, we'll run that and start the engine. Right, what have we got? So it's set at 5 volts there, just so. So we're measuring the exhaust pulses. So what we might do is set up a delta sensor in the other tailpipe and open up another channel. Okay, so we have a delta sensor in the other tailpipe, and we'll have that pressure sensor in this tailpipe. We'll just see what the difference is. It's starting to get a bit erratic, that waveform. Not very uniform, but anyway, we'll see what the delta sensor says here. We'll turn it on. Try 10 volts. Yeah, I'll up a bit more. 20 volts. So the delta sensor, or pulse sensor, which is a piezo, that's on the red channel, and the WPS clone is on the blue there, and yeah, well, the pulse sensor is a lot more uniform, as you can see, but it's a different thing entirely. So if we give her a rev here, we'll see the difference here as well. Give her a wee bit of a rev. Put a wee bit of revs on her, right? Let's see. So the pressure sensor reacts completely different there to the pulse sensor. So they're sort of two different animals. So the red one's just measuring the difference, you know. So that's what we call it a delta sensor. And the blue one is pressure. So with more revs, then that's going to increase quite a bit. But we're just mucking about to see how good this is. Of course, we're not comparing these two devices at all. There, this is purely pressure. Positive, well, and a bit of negative pressure if it's there. On this one, this is just pressure only. So, they're two different animals, as I said. What we are doing there is to see if this can indeed measure those small pressures that it's stated in that third range there, that range 3. So up to 5 psi. And it seems to do it quite well. So, this thing here, we could use it for example, exhaust back pressure and stuff like that, So it was interesting. What was also interesting there is the capture. If you notice the capture, and I left the car running while I put the pulse sensor in, the second sensor there. So I just left the car running when I was doing that. And the capture had changed. You saw that sort of like wee M shaped. And I said, oh, that's going a wee bit erratic there. So I'm wondering, has the, this car has variable valve timing on both inlet and exhaust. And I wonder, has that actually changed that a wee bit? So that wee M shape there, it's just, so there was a wee bit of drop in pressure and then a rise again. So I've seen that M in captures before. So that's interesting.
Interesting. That's what you see when you don't know what's going on. You just see interesting.
Sandy! Get out of my video, will you? So there you go. What do you think? Seems to give a decent enough waveform. There's a wee bit of, in case you can't remember what the strokes do. And there's the ranges there. Just to remind you, aluminium construction. Hold it in for about 5 seconds or something. And away she goes. So, it seems to be a decent enough waveform there. It seems to do what it says on the tin. There's a wee release valve there as well. Bit of a weird connection on it. It's not your usual sort of Foster 2 or Rectus or anything like that. So, I don't know, to use my diesel adapters, I don't know I'll maybe just have to use this pipe all the time. I'm sort of stuck with this pipe, but maybe able to, if worst comes to the worst, I could screw this here off and probably put another connection on, I guess. But I don't really want to, I don't want to start taking it apart like. But it is what it is, and there you are. Okay, that's about it for this video. So, as usual, many thanks for watching, and all the best, and